Hi guys, you are back and I am back. We just did that quick little lecture. You can see I'm still in the same clothes. It's the same day. It's actually only 2 minutes later and I wish I took a drink before I started recording this, but oh well, I did not. Sorry about that. Well, this is chapter 4, lecture 2, in case you forgot. And we're going to talk about epithelial tissue. So hopefully you remember epithelial tissue is one of the categories of tissues. And this is going to be the first lecture to introduce tissues and tissue types and see what it's all about. So it's weird because you take, your kidney, your liver, your stomach, these organs, you're comfortable with them, but each organ is made up of different types of tissues. And they've taken all the organs, all the structures inside your body, like even blood, right? And nerve cells. And they've put it into one of 4 categories. So it's a middleman. I'm not going just right from cells to organ, but I'm jumping in tissues in the middle. So people have a tough time with this and they're like, but why? And I get that. And I used to do a lab on tissues as well, but this semester you're not going to because it's just too hard. So you're only learning about tissues in lecture. So work on those learning objectives. For every tissue type we have, like connective tissue, you want to know its functions. What does it do? You want to know its characteristics. What does it mean to be an epithelial tissue? So there's a big difference with those two. If I'm asking for a characteristic, don't give me a function, what it does. Give me this is what it's made of. These are properties associated with it. Like I have brown and gray hair. I have brown eyes. Those are characteristics. I work at SUNY Cobalt Prep and Labs. That's what I do. That's a function. All right, so keep them separate. I think that's all I want to kind of throw out there to you guys. Otherwise, I'm a little, and we're going to get this party started. Okay, epithelial tissue. Hello, or not, huh? Are you going to go for me? Nope. Why? Not able to. Oops, okay. Did it jump to? Did jump to. Okay. Technical difficulties as usual. All right. I did look through the PowerPoint ahead of time this time, but I want to see. Okay, so I do have some of these defined. Characteristics. So what is it about epithelial tissue that makes it epithelial tissue? This, and it says there's 5. So are there 5 little dots here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, there are. So even though I've listed these and I've given descriptions on the future slides, I'm going to talk about them probably here because I can and I know what they mean. So the first characteristic is that these cells have polarity. So what that means is polarity, if this is a cell, means it has a different top and bottom. Okay, so on the bottom, it might have, so it has a top layer called apical. I know I just changed things. Apical end and a basal end. So basal is like a basement, right? Basal is bottom, apical is top. And on the top, you might find like some little cilia, some little hairs, a different surface, little projections. It's different than at the basal end, the bottom. That might be where it's connected to a basement membrane, maybe. So it has different stuff going on, right? Like those hemidesmosomes that I've never talked about before. And now I've said that word twice today. That just is saying basement membrane. But it has a different top and bottom. That is what polarity means. And I'm to say, here we go, apical and a basal. They differ in structure and in what they do. Good point. Oh, look, there's more slides on that one. Apical might have those little projections I was talking about, like microvilli to increase surface area. It might have some cilia. Oh, I guess I'll continue with these and we'll jump back. And then the basal surface, like I said, might be attached to this connective tissue basement membrane. So apical at the top, basal at the bottom, and you see their picture is a lot nicer than mine. And then we will find some cell junctions in between, and that was another property. They could have tight junctions. They could have desmosomes. Nope. Desmosomes. Okay. That should be it for that one. Okay, yes it is. So I had a couple slides on that. So we just talked about that. They are supported by a connective tissue. So epithelial tissue will always have a connective tissue underlying it. And that's important because I'm going to skip number 4. No, that's important because of number 4. Number 4 means avascular. So this A as a prefix means none, without. My Latin was failing me. And vascular means blood supply. So there is no blood vessels in epithelial tissue without blood vessels. Blood supply. So blood is not bringing epithelial tissue its nutrients. It relies on diffusion, passive, right? The skin, my outer layer of my skin, my epidermis is epithelial tissue. There's no blood vessels in the outer layer, right? That's why you can get a paper cut and it doesn't bleed, but it hurts like the dickens because there's nerve cells there. Everything is from underneath. In my dermal layer, I will have blood vessels bringing in nutrients, removing waste, and then I rely on diffusion for getting me the good stuff and for taking away the bad stuff. That's crazy. And the other thing about epithelial tissue is that they easily regenerate, right? Replace damage easily. Damaged cells. Okay. And that's 5 characteristics, not functions. That's who I am. If I'm this, I'm an epithelial tissue. I have polarity, I have specialized cell junctions, I have a basement membrane underneath, I have no blood vessels, but I can readily regenerate and do mitosis. Okay, here's my functions. What do? I can protect if I'm many layers. I can filtrate and absorb if I'm one layer. I can do secretion because I'm a gland, and excretion because I'm a gland. Okay, there's 2 major types, covering and lining, and glandular. I feel like there's 3 types, but as I feel like this covering, right, is many cells, but I'm going to let that go. So I'm either covering and lining or I'm glandular. Sorry. Okay, we're going there. This is water with a little flavor and ice, in case you're wondering, what is she drinking? Is she drinking something interesting? Interesting to me, but not to you guys. Okay. If I'm an epithelial tissue, I am the name game. That's how I look at it. It's all a game. You gotta find some fun in this. And the name game is, am I one layer or many? If I'm one layer, then my name game is simple. If I'm many, then my name game is stratified. So I teach it as a name game, and then I talk about the exceptions. So we're not going to talk about the exceptions yet. That's an exception. My other part of the name game, so 1, how many layers am I? 2, what is my cell shape? Right? So 1 was layers, 2 is cell shape. Am I flat? If I'm flat, then my name game is squamous. Am I boxy? No! Oh, poo. Okay, we can save this. Okay, push that up a little so I can angle my hand a little more. I'm Boxy. Do you like my sound effects? I'm Boxy, I'm cuboidal. Can you tell I have boys? Am I tall and thin? No, I'm not tall and thin, but some of you guys are. Then my name game is columnar. Okay, and you just put these two together. So again, we're not going to talk about the exceptions at this point. We'll get to them in a few minutes. Then just put them together. And so here's pictures. Am I one layer? Simple. Am I many layers? Stratified. All right, well, since they're doing it now, we'll just talk about this exception. There is a middleman, of course, because you make rules, and of course there are people who don't follow them. And pseudo-stratified means fake layers. And one of my most favorite tissues in the whole wide world is a pseudo-stratified, of course, because it's funky. It's like some of my students. So pseudo-stratified means fake layers. It looks like there's many layers. I finally figured out how to explain this one because I read the book. See how this looks like? These are the nuclei, and it looks like there's many layers, like in this guy, right? There's many layers of cells. This looks like there's many layers of nuclei, but every cell, I don't know that every cell reaches the top, but every cell reaches the bottom. So all cells are on basement membrane. My dog is snoring. It's very funny. She's squeaking down there. She's had a tough day of doing nothing. Okay, so that's pseudostratified. It looks like their nuclei are in layers. They're not, and every cell is actually connected to the basement membrane. And so therefore it gets the cool name of pseudostratified. Then I have, if I am flat cells, I'm squamous. If I'm boxy cells, I'm cuboidal, and I'm from those nice, graceful, tall, thin cells. Some of my students, I'm columnar. And then, of course, you have this basement membrane below, and that is made up of connective tissue, which we haven't talked about yet, so don't worry about a basement membrane all that much. Okay, so the name game is you put these together. So what do I have? I have simple squamous. Let's see if I can write them all out there. I have simple cuboidal. I have simple, what? Which one am I missing? Columnar, you are right. I have stratified, squamous. I have stratified columnar. Columnar. Oops, and stratified cuboidal. That one's not so. Then I have the exceptions. I have pseudostratified. I thought I spelled it wrong for a second. And actually, I have a pseudostratified columnar, epithelial, columnar. And I have another one. That's another exception, and that is transitional. And transitional is kind of funky. Transitional is the cells look like they change shape. Well, they actually do change shape. Yeah, I just used the slide as a whiteboard. It's just going to be how it works. Okay, they look like they change shape. You find this in the bladder. All right, so hang on a second because I'm going to go big. Okay, so when we are in the bladder, my funky black glove so I don't send wrong signals. The bladder is like a little round balloon, right? And as the bladder fills up with the urine, it stretches and stretches and stretches. So when it's empty, it's just a small little circle, and the cells look really boxy. Cuboidal. Oops, I guess I should show my lips in case people are reading my lips. So when it's empty, the cell shape is cuboidal, but then as the bladder fills and it expands, it's like a balloon. Okay, it's not that cells are sliding over each other. Cells are changing their shape and they're getting flatter, so they're becoming squamous as they're stretching, and that's why it's transitional, because those cells are changing shape like that. And that's all I got on that one. So all of these cell types are in different locations. We have a simple I'm not ready to move on yet. We have a simple squamous, simple cuboidal, simple columnar. We're going to go over those ones. We're going to go over stratified squamous. We're not going to really go over stratified cuboidal or stratified columnar. And we're going to do pseudostratified columnar and then transitional. All right, those are the ones I'm going to focus on for this lecture. If I don't focus on it, then I don't, feel free to learn everything. That's fantastic, but there's still a lot to go. All right, so simple squamous is one layer. You want to know what is it, where is it, what does it do? Okay, so if I am one layer, things are going to pass across me. So it's diffusion because things are passing across me, like in the alveoli in the lungs. Or another one, because I'm just a single layer, I'm going to have filtration. And again, in filtration, things pass across me. Where are you telling me that these are? Oh, in the peritoneum. Okay, I don't like that location. I like talking about the alveoli in the lungs, where oxygen will diffuse across, right? Oxygen will diffuse across the single layer into blood vessel. And then even carbon dioxide will diffuse across into the alveoli. I'm just going to go with that. Simple cuboidal is their boxy. So again, it's a single layer, right? Because it's simple. So I'm one layer and I'm boxy. Single layer, boxy cells. So because I'm one layer, things are going to go across me again. So there's absorption, goes across, and secretion. And you find these in certain areas of the kidney. Those of you that had me last semester. So this is inside the kidney, and it's called a nephron. And you find simple cuboidal in these nephron. These are like tubules. Right? It's so confusing. Don't get too hung up on it. Don't worry about it. So here's my little boxy cells right there. Right? They're nice and they're boxy, and it's making up these simple cuboidal in the kidney, making up the nephrons, tubules. See, if we were in class, I would totally pick on someone who had me last semester and go, what is it, one of the nephron tubules? But we're moving on. All right, simple columnar. Again, I'm a single layer and I'm tall. And I could have cilia or microvilli on me. Again, because I'm only one layer, things are going to go across me. All right, and you will find things going across in like the small intestine. So if I'm nutrients that are broken down into the subunits, right? Nutrients in SI, it will have to go across and then enter into a blood vessel capillary. And that is the picture that we have. So look at this beautiful handle. Oh, guess I got a couple locations. Goes all the way to the bottom, goes all the way to the top, one layer with all these beautiful nuclei. And the jejunum is part of the small intestine, and food parts will go across it. Nutrients. I also have them in my fallopian tubes. Okay, sounds good. Pseudostratified, that's the tricky one. So this is known as a pseudostratified ciliated epithelial. Columnar, pseudostratified columnar. Yeah. Oh yeah, right. It's right here. Look, I'm trying to come up with the name. Pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelial. So it's pseudostratified because it looks like there's two layers, but all of the cells come down on the bottom layer. So pseudostratified, fake layers, fakes you out. This guy has cilia on the top, so that's why they're ciliated in the name. And the shape are my lovely long tall cells, so that's why it's columnar. you find this in the trachea. Trachea is part of the respiratory system, so air is passing down the trachea and then going into the two bronchi to ultimately get into your lungs. So what's cool about this is the cilia has some mucus. I'm going to talk about that for a hot second in a minute. You have some mucus, you have some cilia, so that it traps garbage in the air you're breathing and then kind of sweeps it upward. So it prevents, between the cilia and the mucus, it's preventing garbage from getting into your lungs. Preventing garbage from getting into. So why I'm actually taking a minute to talk about the specifics of this is my public service announcement. When you smoke, and people smoke, okay, the tar of the cigarettes gums all this up, blah, blah, blah. It's all chum now on your trachea. What does that mean? That means that all this garbage is getting into your lungs and you are more prone to infections, pneumonia, whatever, upper respiratory infections, because one of the reasons why. All right, so knowledge is power. Okay, stratified squamous is protection, okay, right? If I am stratified, I am many layers. Okay, wow, I'm many layers, see them all? And as in this one, they're actually starting out a little boxier, and as they reach the outer surface, they get flatter. I can have keratinized and non-keratinized. Keratin is a waxy protein. And hopefully you're thinking skin. So I have waxy proteins on my skin, my epidermis. Non-keratinized, I think, is in areas like the vagina. I don't think it's pretty waxy down there. It's protection against water loss. We're going to go into a lot more depth on this in the next chapter when we talk about the integumentary system, UV radiation, and it's a physical barrier. Right, so stuff can't pass through it. All right. Oh, so I said the right thing. So the vagina has non-keratinized many layers. And then, of course, there's the connective tissue at the bottom. And we have the skin. And the skin has a couple different regions you're going to learn. It has an epidermis, and that's this kooky layer here. Oops, actually, it's all of this. What am I thinking? Then all of this is the epidermis, and then this other stuff down here, this lighter tan, if you're looking in color, is the dermis layer. And then all of that was the epidermis. So the epidermis is also made up of stratified squamous epithelial cells. If we had a lab on this, you wouldn't get to leave until you could recognize some of these. Transitional, we're not doing the lab, so you luck out. It's a name game. Transitional means they start boxy, and then as they stretch, they will flatten out. So they go from boxy to flat. That's why it's transitional. When they stretch, return to rounder appearance when they're not. And this is in the bladder. The bladder is just like a giant balloon. And there's another picture just trying to show you that here these guys are a little bit flatter as it's filling up. Oh, here's naming combinations. Yeah, we're not talking. I didn't even see a slide. I think I removed the slides on stratified, cuboidal, stratified, columnar. So we did simple squamous in the alveoli, simple cuboidal in the kidney, simple columnar in the digestive tract, pseudostratified columnar in the trachea, and stratified squamous in the skin. Another type of epithelial that we have is glandular, and glandular means that it makes a substance, a secretion. This substance can either go into the bloodstream because it dumps it into the space outside the cell. That's the interstitial space. It's kind of like you throwing something outside your house It goes into your yard, and then then the wind will blow it into like the road. So it's like the bloodstream is the road, the interstitial space outside the cell is like your yard. So that's an endocrine. It goes into the bloodstream. Exocrine, where's my pen? Exocrine has its own passageway. It goes into its own little duct. Okay, that will, I hate this definition, empty onto the surface of a lining. So people say the duct goes to the outside the body. Hopefully you didn't hit stop there. That is not true. The duct will lead you. The duct is a passage, like a gutter, passageway, that will lead you to another location. Okay, so the other location can be like the small intestine, because I have the pancreas and the liver making secretions that go into a duct into the small intestine, and therefore are exocrine glands. I have secretions that dump into the stomach, so it's not outside the body. It can be. I have sweat glands, right? Sweat glands, oil glands. Those go outside the body, but they are just an example. So that is not a hard, fast rule that it goes outside the body, but it goes to another location via a passageway, not the bloodstream. Okay, that is really how I want you to think of glandular. So definitely know the difference between endocrine versus exocrine. That's an easy question. And I don't want to spend too much time. So endocrine glands make a substance that goes ultimately into the bloodstream. That's what this is showing. Exocrine glands, well, I guess, so here's an endocrine gland. Now we're talking about the thyroid gland, makes something, goes into the bloodstream. Right. Exocrine gland makes a product that goes into a dump and empties into a different location. I will mark it wrong if you say it's exocrine because it's dumped outside the body. Man, that's not cool. Okay, so I have sweat glands, I have salivary glands, and the pancreas. Pancreas is scary because the pancreas is endocrine. Oh, you're not going to be nice to me, are you? Because it's going into the bloodstream. And it's exocrine, makes every digestive enzyme because it goes into the small intestine via a duct. That is the only gland in your body that is both exocrine and endocrine. Okay. Yum. I was looking at, I'm like, oh, yum. Function, produces substances, oil, earwax, right? What is the function of earwax, really? Is it necessary? I feel like I would live okay without it. Okay, so glands, glandular epithelial can be one cell only, single cell, or it can be many cell making a gland, oil gland, sweat gland, salivary glands, blah, 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 blah. We're not going to worry about any of this stuff, but I just let you know that there's all these different types of, and I hate this gland too, salivary gland, you know, so they're functional, you know, there's just kind of different forms of secretion. I don't even want to talk about this stuff. This is 200 level stuff here in the 100 level class. What I do want to point out is that mammary glands are modified sweat glands. So when you're dunking that Oreo into your little cup of milk, you could just as easily have like run a mile, sopped up all your sweat, poured it in a cup, and then just dunk your Oreo in that and glug, 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 chug it down, right? Or I'll take some frozen sweat, please. I don't know. It's crazy. I don't know. It brings, connective tissue. Brings some interesting concepts to mind. So that is our epithelial tissue. And I'm going to stop here because connective tissue is also another big one. So stay tuned because I'm banging this whole chapter out today because why not? Rip the Band-Aid off. See you later.